Peace is one of the main themes of Christmas. Prayers for world peace for an end to conflict are heard in churches around the world during the holiday. When it comes to forging peace between Jewish, Muslim, and Christian leaders, perhaps no one knows more than my next guest, Rabbi David Rosen. He's dedicated his life to interfaith dialogue. He is the Director of International Interreligious Affairs for the AJC, or the American Jewish Committee. He joins me now. Rabbi Rosen, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I know that you recently met with the Pope at the Vatican. What can you tell us about that meeting?
Well, I'm very privileged in terms of my work to meet with religious leaders of special standing quite often, and I think this is probably my 13th or 14th meeting with Pope Francis. But this was within the framework of our special bilateral commission of the Chief Rabbinate of Israel and the Holy See. This is a bilateral commission that meets every year, once, 1 year in Jerusalem, 1 year in Rome, where we look at current social and scientific issues and deepen the bonds between the different communities. And of course, the people involved are multiplicators who impact upon their respective communities and congregations. On this occasion, to our surprise, because we weren't expecting it, we were invited to meet with the Pope. So there were 5 of us from Israel, together with our colleagues from the Vatican. And the Pope told us that he especially wanted to meet with us, even though it was the end of a long day and he was rather tired, because he's so deeply committed to reconciliation between Christians and Jews. And he spoke about the fact that we are one family, that we need to work together, hand in hand for peace. Those were his words, and gave us his blessing, and we had a little chat, and it was a very warm, friendly gathering that would have been unimaginable, I mean, just a generation ago. If you were to tell my grandparents that such a thing was possible, probably even my parents, they wouldn't have believed it. And today we meet now the Jewish and Catholic communities, and that's the case with many other Christian communities, in the spirit of true brotherhood and friendship. It's a great privilege to be able to be part of that in this day and age.
One part of peace among the people of faith. You were also recently in the United Arab Emirates for a conference on peace in Abu Dhabi. Tell me a little bit about that.
So this was convened by arguably certainly one of the most important Muslim leaders of our time, Sheikh Abdullah bin Bayyah, who was actually a Mauritanian minister and then taught, was a professor in Saudi Arabia of Islamic studies. He's actually the supreme mufti, in effect, in the UAE, backed by the royal family, precisely in order to be able to demonstrate a message of peace and of reconciliation coming from the Muslim world, which isn't the message that one would typically gain from in terms of media coverage. I'm not saying it's a problem with the media, I'm saying that there are some very bad things that are perpetrated in our world in the name of Islam. And this is of distress, above all, to good, responsible, peace-loving Muslims, let alone to the rest of the world. So there's a big effort to try to counteract that within Islam itself. That's the first target. And then to build bridges with other communities. So it was a great privilege to participate in that. I've known Sheikh bin Bayyah many years from other global interfaith organizations, but I've never been his guest in the Arab Muslim world, this time in the Emirates. And there were, in fact, about 10 of us rabbis, mainly from the United States. I was the only one.
10 rabbis.
10 rabbis
in Abu Dhabi.
And
with kosher food, I understand.
And with virtually every major session, so a rabbi was speaking. So you had hundreds of Muslim leaders listening to the words of rabbis there. They laid on special kosher food, which they brought in from this tiny new Jewish community that's established itself in Dubai. So there are definite changes taking place within the Arab world, and a perception with regards to Jewry. After all, they have been fed a diet of hostility towards Israel first and foremost, but to Jews as a result, over the course of more than half a century. And now as changes are taking place, we're not going to see absolute kumbaya overnight from everyone. But the fact that there are efforts on the part of leadership to change perceptions and to encourage these relationships is a definitely positive sign of the times.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Rosen, for joining me.